Did he just say she's fired? The room fell silent. Forks stopped midair. The CEO's voice echoed like thunder through the glass walls. Pull her out, now! Ava's hands trembled over her keyboard, her headset still on. Moments ago, she'd saved the company's presentation from crashing in front of international investors. Now, the man she'd just rescued, her boss, was glaring at her as if she'd committed a crime. Across the long mahogany table, 12 executives sat frozen, their faces glowing under the huge digital screen behind Ava. It displayed the company's latest AI software, a billion-dollar pitch that almost collapsed when a glitch froze the system. Ava, the only black engineer in the room, had stepped in without hesitation, fixed it live, and saved the show. But instead of applause, came silence. Mr. Langford, the CFO, whispered, "She just saved us." The investors were seconds from walking out. Langford didn't blink. She wasn't authorized to touch the system. That was a breach of protocol. Ava stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, if I hadn't stepped in, we would have lost the deal. Watch your tone." His words sliced through her voice. "You're dismissed." The projector light flickered across Ava's face. For a second, no one breathed. Then came the soft click of the door behind her as she walked out, her ID badge still hanging loosely around her neck. But what no one noticed, what not even Langford realized, was that Ava's quick fix had done more than just save the presentation. In the chaos, a small piece of hidden code had activated, something buried deep in the company's system, something no one was supposed to see. Minutes later, while Langford was boasting about company resilience, his laptop screen blinked, then froze, then displayed one single line of text. "Truth cannot be deleted." His hand hovered over the mouse. "What the hell is this?" The other executives leaned in. The investors began murmuring in confusion. The same message appeared on every screen in the room, on tablets, monitors, even the massive wall display. "Truth cannot be deleted." Langford's jaw clenched. "Get it in here, now!" But Ava was already gone, standing outside the glass building, the winter air sharp against her face. She looked up at the sky, exhaled, and whispered, "You wanted a show. Let's give them one." Inside, panic spread like wildfire. Emails began sending themselves. Confidential files blinked open. Images, charts, and voice recordings of internal meetings flashed on the screen. Things no one was supposed to hear. Conversations about discrimination, complaints, unfair promotions, and whispered deals behind closed doors. Langford slammed his laptop shut, his voice breaking. "Shut it down!" But the system didn't respond. Outside, Ava's phone buzzed once. A single notification appeared. "Upload complete." She watched the company's logo flicker on the skyscraper's digital billboard above her, and then glitch. The pristine blue logo warped into static, then reshaped itself into 4 words that made people stop in the streets below. "Power has consequences." Ava turned away, her reflection glowing in the glass doors as sirens echoed in the distance. For the first time in years, she wasn't silent, and somewhere deep inside that corrupted network, a hidden truth had just begun to speak. "Who opened this door?" Langford's voice snapped through the empty hallway like a whip. The server room, strictly restricted, was glowing red with warning lights. Dozens of screens blinked erratically, flashing corrupted lines of code that made no sense to anyone except one person, Ava. She hadn't meant to come back. After being humiliated in front of everyone, she told herself she was done. But something about that last message on the CEO's screen, "Truth cannot be deleted," kept echoing in her mind. She didn't type it. Yet somehow the system had spoken in her defense. Now standing in the corridor, she could hear faint clicking from the server racks behind the glass. The door, usually sealed tight, hung slightly ajar. Someone had already been here. Her heart raced. "That door should have been locked," she whispered to herself, pushing it open just enough to slip inside. The air was cold and humming. Lights from the servers painted her face in shifting colors, blue, red, white, like the heartbeat of something alive. Then she saw it. A small terminal in the corner still logged in under her credentials, but she hadn't touched this system in days. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. The cursor blinked. And then, words began typing themselves across the screen. "They're watching you." Ava froze. The message blinked again, once, twice, before disappearing completely. She yanked out her flash drive, shoved it into the port, and started copying logs. If someone was framing her, she needed proof. Footsteps echoed outside. Heavy. 2, maybe 3 people. She shut the drive, turned off the monitor, and slipped behind one of the tall racks. Through the crack in the glass, she saw Langford enter with 2 security guards. "Seal this floor," he ordered. "I want every line of access traced. Whoever's inside that system is finished." One of the guards frowned. "Sir, the logs show her ID again. The same employee from the presentation." Langford's lips curled. "Of course it does." She planted something. "And now she's trying to clean it up." Ava bit her lip, her pulse thundering. She wanted to scream that it wasn't her, that she didn't even know how the system was behaving this way. But the truth wouldn't matter. Not here. Not to them. Langford moved closer to the terminal. "Pull every camera angle from the last 2 hours. If she's here, I want her found." The guard nodded and walked toward the hallway. The moment the door clicked shut, Langford leaned forward, typing something quickly into the terminal. The screen flickered, then went black, then a faint voice, mechanical, distorted, came through the speakers. "Deleting evidence will not protect you." Langford froze. "What did you say?" The voice repeated louder this time. "Truth cannot be deleted." The guards rushed back in, panicking as lights around them began to blink in sync. Ava pressed herself against the server rack, eyes wide, realizing the voice wasn't coming from her code. It was coming from somewhere else. Something else. Langford slammed the terminal shut and stormed out, barking orders. The guards followed. Only when silence returned did Ava finally exhale. She pulled the flash drive from her pocket, trembling. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a glitch anymore. As she turned to leave, she noticed one more thing, etched faintly into the glass door she'd entered through. A single fingerprint, not hers, and beneath it, in smeared red marker, a message only she could see under the server light. "You're not alone in this. Dad, I'm telling you, it wasn't a glitch." Naomi's voice trembled as she clutched the small flash drive in her hand, her eyes wide with urgency. The smell of bleach and metal filled the janitor's room where her father, Marcus, stood mopping the tiled floor. He sighed, weary from years of being ignored by men in suits. "Sweetheart," he said gently, "you've got to stop worrying about those computers. That's grown-up stuff. You'll just get in trouble poking around where you don't belong." "But, Dad—" "No, Naomi." His tone hardened, not out of anger, but fear. "You know what they think of us here? If the bosses find out you've been near those servers again, they'll fire me. We can't afford that." Naomi bit her lip. She wanted to scream. He didn't understand. No one did. The red light on the server door, the tampered cables, the badge she'd found with Rachel Levinson printed on it, it all meant something. But she was just the janitor's kid. In the hallway outside, 2 executives hurried past, their voices sharp and nervous. "Wexler wants that server report buried. He's blaming the crash on system overload." Naomi's stomach twisted. She peeked out through the half-open door. "He knows it's not overload," the second man whispered. "He knows someone did it manually." Marcus turned, annoyed. "Naomi, you're listening again?" She backed away, shaking her head. "Dad, please, just listen to me." I saw Rachel's badge. "The logs show a manual override at 3:47 a.m. Someone disabled the system." Marcus froze, mop still in hand. "Rachel Levinson, the chief operations director?" Naomi nodded fast. "She's covering something up, but everyone thinks it's just a crash. If they don't see what I found, they'll blame you or the cleaners." He rubbed his temples. "Naomi, this is dangerous talk. These people, they don't like anyone questioning them, especially not us." The way he said us stung. She knew what he meant. The invisible ones. The people who cleaned the fingerprints off glass walls but never left their own. Naomi looked up at him with steady eyes. "Then I'll make them listen." Before Marcus could respond, the intercom buzzed overhead. "Attention, all staff. Report to the auditorium for an emergency broadcast from the CEO." Naomi's heart dropped. A broadcast meant cameras, press, investors, maybe even live coverage. If she didn't act now, they'd twist the story and hide everything. She shoved the flash drive into her pocket. "I have to go." Marcus grabbed her arm gently. "Naomi, please." "Don't do something crazy." She met his eyes, tears glistening. Mom wasn't crazy when she told the truth. They just didn't listen to her either. For a moment, silence hung between them. Heavy, aching. Marcus's grip loosened. He saw it now, the same fire that once burned in Helena's eyes. Her mother's eyes. Naomi turned and ran, sneakers echoing against the marble floors of the billion-dollar company that didn't even know her name. Executives brushed past her without a glance. Secretaries whispered. Security guards eyed her like she was lost. But she wasn't lost. She was going exactly where she needed to be. Up ahead, through the glass walls of the auditorium, Naomi saw Thomas Wexler on stage, his voice calm, rehearsed, dripping with corporate charm. "The system isn't broken," he was saying. "Our engineers are already fixing the issue. Saluix Technologies remains committed to—" Naomi's fists clenched. Her heart hammered. She looked down at the flash drive in her palm. The truth was inside it, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't going to stay silent. She stepped toward the doors, slow, steady, determined, just as Wexler's face filled the giant screen behind him. He had no idea what was coming. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" The voice was sharp, cold, and low. Naomi froze behind the half-closed conference room door, her small hands gripping the edge of the frame. The lights inside were dim, and through the thin gap she could see Thomas Wexler, CEO of Saluix Technologies, standing with his back to the window, city lights glowing behind him like fire. Across the table stood Rachel Levinson. Her perfectly tied bun had started to come loose, and sweat glistened along her temple. "You told me you could delete it all," Wexler hissed. "The transfers, the offshore accounts, everything. So why is the crash drawing attention instead?" Rachel's voice shook. "Because someone must have seen the override. The manual log wasn't erased." Naomi's heart thudded. Manual log. That's what she saw. That's what they were hiding. Wexler slammed his hand on the table, making Rachel flinch. "Then fix it, Rachel. Before the board asks questions. Before the media smells blood." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You know what happens if this gets out? We don't lose money. We lose everything." Rachel swallowed hard. "Thomas, I can't keep covering this. The system wasn't broken. It was disabled on purpose. I warned you this would—" "Enough!" he barked. "Don't lecture me about ethics now. You helped build this lie. You stay quiet or you'll go down with it." Naomi's breath caught. She stepped back, her shoe brushing the edge of a cleaning cart. The sound echoed faintly down the hall. Inside, Wexler froze. Rachel's eyes darted to the door. "Did you hear that?" Naomi ducked low, crawling behind the cart as her pulse pounded in her ears. She could feel her heart beating against the tile. Wexler moved closer to the door, his expensive shoes clicking slowly. "Security's been sloppy lately," he muttered. "I'll deal with it." Naomi held her breath as his shadow crossed the crack of light under the door. For a moment it lingered there, then turned away. The sound of his footsteps faded down the corridor. Rachel sighed shakily. "Thomas, this is getting out of hand. The janitorial logs show someone accessed the restricted floor this morning. What if—" "Then we find them," he snapped. "And if anyone talks, we'll make sure they regret it." Naomi's fingers clenched tight around her hoodie. She knew they were talking about her father's log. About her. When the meeting finally ended, she waited until their voices disappeared down the elevator hall. Then she slipped out, her small sneakers making no sound on the marble floor. She pressed her back against the cold glass wall, staring at the reflection of her own frightened face. They were hiding crimes, erasing evidence, threatening people to keep quiet, and the only proof left, the last untouched record, was the flash drive she carried in her pocket. Her hands trembled, but her eyes hardened. If she stayed silent, they'd destroy her father too. But if she spoke, the world might finally see the truth. She looked down the long hallway leading to the auditorium, where the broadcast would start in less than an hour. Naomi whispered to herself, "They'll listen this time." Then she walked away, slow, determined, a child carrying the kind of truth grown men were terrified of. "Security! Get that kid off the stage!" The shout came from somewhere behind the cameras, but Naomi didn't move. The bright lights burned her eyes, the crowd of executives and reporters frozen mid-breath. In her trembling hands was the mic meant for the CEO. Her voice shook at first, but the truth inside her was louder than fear. "The system isn't broken," she said, eyes locked on Thomas Wexler. "Someone disabled it." A ripple spread through the room. Cameras clicked. Reporters turned. The crowd that once ignored her now stared in disbelief at the janitor's daughter standing in front of billionaires. Wexler forced a smile, stepping forward with performative calm. "Sweetheart," he said smoothly, "you must be confused. Why don't you hand that microphone to someone who—" Naomi didn't blink. "You tried to erase the logs, didn't you? The ones showing the 3:47 a.m. manual override?" The audience gasped. Rachel Levinson's face turned pale. Wexler's fake smile faltered. "That's absurd. This child is trespassing. Security." But the guards hesitated. Every lens in the room was now pointed at the stage. Naomi reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a small flash drive, holding it up like evidence in a trial. "I copied the backup logs before you shut the system down," she said. "They show your badge was used for the override, the same badge that went missing last night." Rachel looked like she'd been punched. "Thomas, you said the system crash was random." "Don't you start," he hissed under his breath. But the microphones caught it. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. Naomi's father, Marcus, pushed through the audience, eyes wide with fear and pride. "Naomi, baby, what are you doing?" She looked at him, her small voice steady, telling the truth. The screens behind her flickered, displaying code lines from the flash drive. Red letters filled the projection. "Override command executed by Wexler," T gasps echoed. Someone shouted, "Is this real?" Rachel stepped forward, shaking. "She's not lying. I saw the logs, too. He wanted the system down, to destroy financial transfers before the audit." Wexler's mask cracked completely. "You think anyone will believe a janitor's kid and a panicked employee?" he snapped. "I built this company. You all work for me." But no one laughed now. No one clapped. Even the board members shifted uneasily in their seats. Naomi lifted the mic one last time. "You built it on lies. My mom worked here once. You fired her when she found out you were hiding data." The room went silent. "She taught me how to read code before she died," Naomi continued softly. "I recognized your override pattern because it was the same one she tried to stop." Rachel covered her mouth in shock. Cameras zoomed in. Wexler's hand trembled slightly at his side. From the front row, an investor stood up. "Mr. Wexler," he said coldly, "the board will handle this immediately." Wexler's jaw tightened, but his eyes, once sharp and commanding, now looked small, cornered, desperate. Naomi turned away from him, handing the mic back to the stunned host. "You don't need to believe me," she said quietly. "Just check the logs." As security escorted Wexler away, flashes erupted from every angle. Reporters shouted Naomi's name, her quote echoing across the room. "The system isn't broken. Someone disabled it." Marcus knelt beside her, tears glistening in his eyes. "Your mama would have been proud." Naomi smiled faintly. She just wanted people to tell the truth. But before the noise could fade, a voice over the PA announced, "Breaking news. Federal investigators have just arrived at Saluix headquarters." Naomi looked toward the glass doors where agents were entering, her expression calm. The fight was no longer hers alone, and the world had just begun to listen. "Where did you get this?" Agent Morales' voice was low, sharp, and dangerous. Naomi didn't flinch. She sat across the metal table, the same flash drive that had destroyed Wexler's career resting between them. The interrogation room was cold, silent except for the faint hum of a camera recording every second. "I told you," she said quietly. "It was in my mom's old folder, the one she left before she died." Morales leaned back, studying her. "You're telling me your mother, an IT tech fired 7 years ago, had this kind of evidence against one of the biggest corporations in the country?" Naomi's voice trembled, but she forced it steady. She wasn't just an IT tech. She built part of the system Wexler used to hide money. She found out what he was doing, and when she tried to stop him, they made sure she couldn't. The agent's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting your mother's death wasn't an accident?" Naomi looked him straight in the eye. "I'm not suggesting it, I'm saying it." The room fell dead silent. The hum of the lights seemed louder now. Morales opened the folder in front of him, printed screenshots, transaction records, code sequences, all of it traced back to the same night, March 9th. The night Naomi's mother's car went off the bridge. "Do you know what this means?" Morales asked, finally. "If this data is real, it could expose a nationwide laundering network. But if it's fake..." "It's not fake," Naomi cut in. Her voice cracked, but her eyes burned with certainty. "You think a kid could write that code? My mom's signature is in there. She hid her initials inside the system. Line 3492. Check it." Morales hesitated, typing into his laptop. The code filled the screen, thousands of lines scrolling by in green. Then there it was. MW Verify. He stared at it, speechless. She knew one day someone would come looking, Naomi whispered. She left her proof in plain sight. The agent exhaled, slowly closing the laptop. "Naomi, you have no idea what kind of people you've angered. Wexler's just one face. There are others. Bigger. Hidden." "I don't care," she said. "They took everything from her. They don't get to win again." Morales studied her again, then stood up and headed for the door. "Stay here," he ordered, his tone softer now. But before he could leave, the door burst open. Another agent rushed in, eyes wide. "Sir, you need to see this. The media just leaked part of the logs. Someone from the inside sent them out." Morales froze. "What?" The agent shoved a tablet into his hands. Headlines blazed across the screen. "Salowix CEO under federal investigation. Evidence suggests widespread corporate fraud." Naomi's breath caught. "It's out?" Morales nodded slowly. "Looks like someone beat us to it." Naomi's mind raced. Who else had access to the drive? She thought of Rachel Levinson, the woman who'd turned against Wexler on stage. Had she done it? Morales glanced at her, suspicious. "You sure you're the only one who had the files?" Naomi hesitated just a moment too long. That was all he needed. The door slammed shut, locking again. Morales leaned forward, voice now colder. "Naomi, who are you protecting?" Her heart pounded. She looked at the drive, then at the camera blinking red in the corner. She couldn't tell the truth. Not yet. Not until she knew who else was out there. "I'm protecting the truth," she whispered. Morales' eyes softened slightly. "Then you'd better hold on tight, kid. Because the people you just exposed, they won't stop until they bury it again." The light flickered once, then twice. Somewhere far away, a phone buzzed with a message Naomi would soon wish she'd never opened. The truth was out. But the hunt had just begun. "Mom?" Naomi froze in the doorway, her voice barely a whisper. The room was dark except for the faint blue glow of her laptop screen. And there on the screen was an email. One that shouldn't exist, from mwilliamsoldmail.net. Subject: "If you're reading this, I'm already gone." Her stomach dropped. Her hands trembled as she clicked it open. "Naomi, they'll come for you the moment you find out what I found. But you can't stop now. Everything you need is inside the red folder. Don't trust anyone, not even the ones who say they're helping. Naomi's eyes blurred with tears. Her mother's voice echoed in her head, soft, calm, warning. You always think the truth will save you, baby, but sometimes the truth burns. Her phone buzzed violently on the table. Unknown number. One new message. You weren't supposed to open that. Naomi's heart raced. She looked around the apartment, curtains drawn, dead quiet, and yet she felt watched. She unplugged her laptop, stuffed it into her backpack, and bolted for the door. But as soon as she turned the handle, click. The hallway light flickered. Someone was standing at the end of it, a tall figure, face hidden in shadow. Naomi's voice cracked. Who are you? The man stepped closer, slow and deliberate. You shouldn't be digging into ghosts, he said. Your mother made that mistake. Don't make it again, Naomi stepped back, clutching her bag. What do you know about my mother? He stopped just a few feet away. Enough to tell you she didn't die because of an accident. She died because she talked. Naomi felt the world tilt beneath her. Who killed her? He hesitated, then slid a folded photo onto the floor. Ask him. The photo landed face up. A familiar smile stared back. Agent Morales. Naomi's breath caught. No, that can't be, but the man was already gone. The hallway was empty again, the air thick with silence. Naomi grabbed the photo, her pulse pounding in her ears. Morales, the man who promised to protect her, who said he believed her mother's story, was now tied to her death? She ran back inside, replaying the conversation from earlier in her mind. His warning, his hesitation, the flicker of fear in his eyes when she mentioned her mother's initials in the code. It all fit. Too perfectly. She collapsed to her knees, tears blurring her vision. Mom, what did you get yourself into? And then, a sound. Her laptop, still half open, glowed again. A video file was playing automatically. Date, March 8th, 11:47 p.m. The footage was grainy. Her mother sat in a dimly lit office, whispering into the camera. If you're seeing this, it means they silenced me. Morales is not who he says he is. He's working for them, for Wexler's people. He thinks he can bury everything, but I made sure he can't. Naomi, you're my last chance. Naomi's body went numb. The voice, the eyes. It was her mother, alive again through pixels and static. Find the rest of the data, the recording continued. The truth isn't in what they stole, it's in what they deleted. The screen glitched, the image fading to black, and then, for a split second, the reflection on the screen showed something behind her. A figure standing by the door. Naomi spun around, but no one was there, just her mother's whisper, echoing from the laptop speaker. Distorted but unmistakable. Don't stop, baby. No matter what happens, don't stop. Naomi closed her eyes, clutching the screen against her chest. For the first time, the fear inside her didn't paralyze her. It fueled her. They thought they buried her mother's truth. But ghosts don't stay buried forever. And Naomi? She was done running. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Morales shouted, slamming his hand against the glass wall. Naomi didn't flinch. She looked him dead in the eyes, her fingers still hovering over the laptop's enter key. Yeah, she said. I pressed send. The massive LED screen behind her flickered, and then came alive with files, names, and transaction records. Wexler Corporation, offshore accounts, bribes, silence payments. It was all there. Everything her mother died trying to expose, and now the entire world was watching. Security alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the control room. Agents rushed in, shouting over one another. Morales turned pale, realizing the broadcast was unstoppable. You don't understand, he barked, lunging toward her. You'll bring the whole system down. Naomi stepped back, trembling but firm. Then maybe it deserves to fall. The words hung in the air like thunder. Outside the glass walls, chaos erupted. Journalists flooded the streets. Screens across the city glowed with her mother's evidence, the hidden footage, the contracts, the voices of people silenced for years. Morales looked at her with something between fury and disbelief. You think this changes anything? They'll come for you, Naomi, for all of us. Naomi's voice cracked, but she didn't lower her gaze. They already came for my mother. This time they'll hear her. The room fell silent, except for the distant wail of sirens. Then came a voice from behind, Officer Dane holding a badge, expression grim. "It's over, Morales. We've seen enough." Morales froze, his jaw tightening. "You're making a mistake, Dane." "No," Dane said quietly. "You did." Two agents stepped forward, cuffing Morales as he glared at Naomi. "You think they'll let you win?" He spat. "This world was never built for you." Naomi stepped closer, her face inches from his. "Then I'll rebuild it myself." As they dragged him away, Naomi felt the tremor in her hands fade. For the first time, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt powerful. She turned toward the screen, and there it was, her mother's recorded voice, the one from the hidden drive. It began to play automatically, echoing through the control room. "My name is Maya Williams. I was part of the team that built this system, a system that promised fairness but delivered fear. They tried to erase me. But justice doesn't die with silence. It waits for someone brave enough to speak." Naomi closed her eyes as tears streamed down her face. That voice, broken, brave, and unshakably human, was everything she had fought for. Moments later, the feed switched again to millions of viewers commenting, sharing, demanding answers. The system that once protected the powerful was now exposed by its own code. Naomi looked down at the cracked screen of her laptop, the same one she had rebuilt from her mother's old hardware, and whispered, "We did it, Mom." A soft chime rang from the device. A final message appeared. "System reboot complete." Naomi smiled faintly, whispering, "No, system rebuilt." Outside, dawn broke over the city, a city no longer blind, no longer silent. For the first time in years, the truth was louder than fear, and as Naomi stepped out of the building, the world didn't look the same. It looked awake,